This episode sponsored by Forkful. Most meal delivery services promise healthy food, but look closer and you'll often find cheap industrial seed oils hiding in the ingredients. Forkful does things differently. Forkful delivers chef-prepared meals made with premium ingredients you'd expect at a great restaurant, from center-cut filet mignon to wild-caught lobster mac and cheese. And every meal is 100% seed oil free. Instead of canola or soybean oil, Forkful chefs cook with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and grass-fed butter, because better fats make better food. Meals arrive fresh, never frozen, with clear nutrition and ingredient transparency, so you always know exactly what you're eating. Restaurant-quality meals, real ingredients, no seed oils. Discover Forkful today at forkfulmeals.com. IPVanish protects every device you own. Your phone, your laptop, your smart TV. If it connects to the internet, it should be protected. IPVanish encrypts your connection and masks your IP address, helping keep your browsing private at home and on public Wi-Fi. And with no device limits, one account covers everything. Stream with added privacy. Browse securely. Connect with confidence. Right now, save 83% off the 2-year plan. Get started today at ipvanish.com/audio and take control of your privacy with IPVanish.
Welcome to the Fallout Lorecast, the podcast that explores the boundaries of our knowledge about the world of Fallout. Wastelanders and Vault Dwellers, welcome back to the Fallout Lorecast. We have 2 episodes in a row talking about pre-war businesses, so we're getting right back into it, still in the D's section alphabetically, and we're starting this week with a company that seems to have been in the process of constructing maybe a road in Appalachia. The company is called Dent and Sons Construction. If you're traveling across Appalachia and you are on State Route 101, then you can reach this location by following that road to what appears to be one of its endpoints. And this was the construction company that was working on expanding out that road. In fact, you can tell that the remains of what is here were being used to excavate the ground itself in order to flatten and prepare it for the expansion of the road when the bombs dropped. And so the road ends here with Dent and Sons Construction. And the name, I think, is interesting because Dent is a last name. People have that last name, but also a bunch of construction equipment. Denting things is kind of fun to think about, but really there isn't a ton of information here. What we do know is that in the years since the war, this has become one of those locations that the raiders like to hang out in. It doesn't become a large base by any means. What is here is very minimal. You have the remains of what could best be described as a mobile home. It basically looks like a manufactured home on a mobile home type lot, but was being used as their office at this location as they moved machinery around and those types of things. And on this location, you can see a few different big yellow dump trucks, a big red truck for hauling things, some tractors, a forklift, a pickup truck, a lot of other equipment that's just been left here from the pre-war times, but built on top of that are barricades, and there's a little tower over by where the road is that maybe the raiders built, or who knows, somebody could have constructed this over the period of time, and maybe it got taken over by raiders. There's even a remains of a fridge outside the location, outside the office, and a satellite dish on the roof. And other than the things that the raiders or maybe somebody else added to this location in those years between, most of the equipment looks like probably it was left where it was and is inoperable. Nobody's driving these trucks around. Nobody's actually using the office as an office anymore. In fact, it's fairly well dilapidated over the years. Now, is there anything else that we can know about Dent and Sons Construction? Do we get a holotape? Do we get, I don't know, the remains of a body with a note? Well, no, this is basically all there is at this location. That's it. So, time to move on to the next one.
You gaze upon one of America's greatest minds, preserved through the miracles of science.
So we're finally getting to the point where we are referring to businesses that get referred by previous businesses through connections and ownership and that kind of thing. This one is Diamond Incorporated. Diamond Incorporated is mentioned on a terminal in the Office of Urban Planning in the office building. And the reason why this might sound familiar is because when we previously talked about Computectron, this was a division of Skex Corporation, which will show up in the future when we get to the S's. But both of these were wholly owned by Diamond Incorporated because they have something to do with computers. That seems to be the connection here. Other than this one entry, and this only shows up in Fallout 3, we know nothing else about Diamond Incorporated. This is one of those companies that would be interesting to learn more about because it seems to own a number of other computer and technology companies. But what were they doing? Why did they own these companies? And it makes me wonder, I mean, this is Fallout, right? And we do know in the pre-war environment, many of the businesses that we know are larger companies that have shell corporations and other companies underneath them, much like what happens in the real world today. For example, most of the things you buy at a grocery store are made by like 4 or 5 actual companies that go by lots of different names, or most of the media that we consume is actually 3 or 4 different media companies. It's all been consolidated. And that happened in the Fallout universe. But not only did that happen, many of those companies, their CEOs, the people at the top, were involved in other endeavors. Maybe they were Enclave members. Maybe they were working with other businesses in some sort of synergy like Vault Tech or any of the other tech companies that are much more well known. There were probably connections between all of these businesses on some level, especially once they hit a certain level of success or size. And so I bet there is more information that we could uncover about Diamond Incorporated if they were to show up in a future game. And we have to understand here, there's no information here that I can uncover. So that information doesn't exist yet. But what I'm saying is it would make a lot of sense for the developers designing Fallout 5 or a future expansion to Fallout 76 to bring back a company like this and to reveal to us more details about the way Diamond Incorporated might be connected to these other entities, businesses, important, powerful people. So keep Diamond Incorporated in mind, just in case it shows up in the future. It might ring a bell. It's been quite a while since I have consumed a hot dog. I don't know how many people eat hot dogs regularly. I did read something somewhere a number of years ago that of all the types of food that are probably worth never eating, hot dogs are at the top of the list. I think it was something like the USDA recommends that you have at most 1 hot dog a year because of how unhealthy they are. But hot dog is a fun thing to say, and hot diggity dog is also a fun thing to say. And there's a business named Diggity's that is all about hot dogs. Now, this makes a lot of sense. So much of the Fallout universe is playing off of these old-timey types of phrases and old slang and things like that. And hot diggity dog is one of those old-timey slangs, probably from like the 1950s. And if you travel to Point Lookout in Fallout 3, then you can find Diggity's hot dog stand. It's just called Diggity's, and it is a hot dog stand. Hot dog stand doesn't show up in the name. And this is an unmarked location. When you walk up to it, you can see the sign. It is a giant hot dog with Diggity's in front of it. And underneath it, it's not a building that you go inside of. It's more like one of those booths where the people work inside the building, but you walk up to the window, you order a hot dog, probably a Nuka-Cola, whatever else you want, and then you carry it around with you while you walk around on the boardwalk. Now, this isn't one of those locations like the other ones I've talked about where we get a holotape or anything else that really gives us any more insight into who ran the business or what was going on here. But we do know a little bit more about the decorations on the building. For example, they also sold corn dogs because there's a sign that says corn dogs. They also sold popcorn and ice cream and ice cold drinks. You know those generic signs you would see at, say, one of those types of locations? Well, this looks exactly like that. Now, the whole place is shuttered. It is closed up The windows are not open. They have these metallic awnings on the front. Awnings? Is that the right word? Screens, the little drops in front of the windows. And you can't look inside. You can't go inside, but you can walk along it. And it was mostly designed as the kind of location that you would see at a place like this, where you're walking around outside and different vendors and places have their booths. So whether this is actually its own business that operated on the site, or if it was part of just kind of the location itself, you know how that is. You go to a certain location and the place itself owns all the little businesses, and they're not their own businesses, but they all have different labels and things like that. Almost like going to a theme park where, the little shops inside the theme park are not their own businesses. They just look like it. That's what this gives me the vibe of. But I love the fact that it's called Diggity's Hot Diggity Dog. It also makes me think of Mickey Mouse. I'm sure somebody out there is going to have that theme song stuck in their head from that Mickey Mouse show that one of my kids used to watch. Also, that theme song written and performed by They Might Be Giants. Any other fans of They Might Be Giants out there? I'm sure somebody is. Well, there you go. That's Diggity's. So we're heading back to Fallout New Vegas. And if you go back to the episodes where I was talking about the sign maker, remember that? There were a variety of different signs. And this is one of the design details that is very good in Fallout New Vegas. The way they designed these signs to look like the kinds of signs you would have seen in the 1930s or 40s or 50s for roadside diners, or in this case, a hotel. Dini's Hotel. And the only reason we know about Dini's Hotel is not because we know where the hotel actually is. We don't actually know that location. It may exist within Fallout New Vegas somewhere. It may be one of those unmarked buildings, but the sign is no longer there if it is. Where the sign is, in fact, there are multiple signs for Dini's Hotel that are in and around different locations. So Zap's Neon Signs has 3 of them. Freeside's Northgate has 2 of these. And if you go to Driver Neffy's hideout, you can find another one of these signs. And the signs are very distinctly Dini's Hotel. The hotel is very large and big in the middle. It's kind of this skewed rectangular shape in blue with white writing and neon on it that probably worked at some time. And above that, in script, we can see Dini's in a little ovular shape. And then below the sign at the bottom, we can see where it says no vacancy, or what's left of no vacancy. And then as part of the design, you have kind of this check mark shape. All of it looks very vintage, very much like the sign that you would see on a road trip if you went with your family in the 1950s down one of these highways during the summer or something like that. And it also looks like the kind of place that it would be more likely to say motel instead of hotel on it, but it's clearly an H. But we don't know where this location actually is. It seems like they were making a whole bunch of signs, and so that implies that this was a chain of buildings, a chain of hotels in many different locations. And maybe that's the case. Maybe there is no Dini's Hotel in the New Vegas area, but other places further out in the Southwest. And yet the sign manufacturer who made the signs was here and was in the process of making new signs for some new locations when the bombs dropped. But all of this is speculation. There's no other evidence for this, and all we have are multiple signs that all look the same. The probable meta explanation is that one of the designers designed this cool looking sign, and so the level designers and the people who were building out the different locations decided to use it when it made sense at those locations, but it never got put up on top of an actual building that looked like a hotel. So Fallout 76 designers, if you are listening, the next time you add an expansion to that map, drop in a Dini's Hotel, pull the sign from this, or build a new one that was inspired by the ones that we see here in New Vegas, and put in a Dini's Hotel. Our listeners will notice. They'll point it out. Oh, and make sure the beds and the pillows and things don't have any bed bugs in them, because that's gross.
Oh, I don't know anything, mister. I just think it. And then I don't.
I love the use of phrases and things from old-timey stuff. And when I say doghouse, you're probably going to think, okay, well, that's not really an old-timey phrase. People still have doghouses. But when I think of doghouses, I think of old cartoons, seeing the doghouse out back in the Tom and Jerry cartoons or whatever. Doghouses feel like things that showed up in cartoons from the middle of the 1900s all the time. And I don't feel like they're things that we even think about anymore. And Doghouse happens to be the name of a dog food company. It shows up in Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. It is the brand Doghouse brand beef stew dog food. Now, why a dog would need beef stew flavor, because dogs don't typically eat stew, I don't know. But you can tell it's packaged that way on the can. And if you look at the can, the labels are extremely dilapidated and dirty. And you can tell that originally the text was in kind of an off-white yellowy color on top of a bright red background with blue bands at the top and the bottom with stars in them. So it looks like a very American designed, pro-American kind of brand. Doghouse. I don't know why Doghouse would be pro-American, but maybe they thought that would help with their sales because, you know, a lot of times businesses these days put bigger and bigger American flags up on things, thinking that that's going to help, I guess, with their sales. I don't know. I don't. This is one of those things that don't get upset at me. This is one of those things I find kind of confusing. Aren't we all Americans who live in America? So do we really need to tell people? Like, shouldn't that be obvious? And I'm sure somebody's going to argue and get political with me and be like, well, some people. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that a basic assumption should just be, hey, we're all Americans. We're all in it together. But anyway, I digress. There really isn't that much more information about Doghouse as a company. There are no other examples of the different types of dog food they make, the different flavors. Maybe they made like a chicken broth flavor or something. Nope, just beef stew. That's all we get. But since we did just talk about hot dogs, I wouldn't be surprised if Doghouse Company and Diggity's hot dogs both get their ingredients from the same manufacturer of like recycled meats. I feel like it would work for both. Yeah, so let that one sink in. But otherwise, nothing else about Doghouse. But you know, there was that. Is there still a perk in 76? There was a perk where like if you ate dog food, you got more health from it. That was a thing for a while. It probably still is. I don't use it, so I don't really know. But there you go. Doghouse. Get some yum yum dog food. That should be their slogan. All right, next one. Those gunshots mean it's time again to talk about an ammunition company. This one is particularly interesting because most of the ammunition companies we talk about are pro-American, that kind of thing. This one is, and I'm going to butcher the name here, so apologies ahead of time if anybody speaks German and I'm butchering this. I'm very, very sorry. Donaustahl, Donaustahl, GmbH. The G and the H are capitalized. That probably is, I don't know, meaningful in some way. Otherwise, why would it be there? But that's another way to say Danube Steel, which is a limited liability company, according to the information here. And we know about them because this company shows up on ammunition 9mm rounds in Fallout New Vegas, which I hadn't thought about previously. I guess I didn't pay much attention to the ammunition that you pick up, but it turns out that when you're picking up 9mm rounds, you're picking up ammunition made not in the United States, in Germany. And not only the name tells us this, the actual logo itself looks like the coat of arms of Bavaria. It has and I don't know the phrases for coats of arms, but it has the kind of like checkered, like stretched checkered pattern in the background with a dragon looking lion thing. I think it's a dragon lion. I don't know, standing up on his hind legs. But all of this points to Bavaria, German manufacturing. And that leads me to a lot of questions here, because again, on the similar topic from the previous episode with the Chinese vases showing up in a shop in the United States, we know how insular the United States was the years before the bombs dropped. They became more and more isolated. And on top of that, we know that European companies were in dire straits. the resource wars, the conflict with the Middle East, trying to get oil, all of that stuff meant that these places in the world were having extreme difficulties, and the United States and China became more isolationists and more, imperialist in conquering their neighbors and that sort of thing. So it's interesting to me that there would still be 9mm ammo made in a place like Germany shipped into the United States. So this seems to imply that this ammunition was probably made a decade or two previous to 2077, to the bombs dropping and all of that, and may have just been left over. I don't know that ammunition has a time limit on it. I'm sure at some point it does, but I would also imagine that bullets have sat around for like 10 years are probably fine to use still. And 10 years is just me speculating. I don't think there's a specific timeline on exactly when. In fact, that's a good question. Exactly when shipments from international companies would have stopped. But I have a feeling we don't have information for specifically every company and the United States completely shutting that down. So I just took a quick little break to do a little bit of research. Based on some research and refreshing my mind about this, it seems like this was a gradual thing, probably starting with the collapse of the United Nations in 2052, and then continuing through the European Middle Eastern War from 2052 to 2060. And then the main isolation of the United States begins in like 2066. So I was close, but there's no specific list of these are the specific companies or these are the specific countries that were no longer being traded with. Chances are that would have happened sometime in between 2052 and 2060 or something like that, which seems to confirm my initial intuition that this ammunition was probably shipped into the United States at least a decade, if not 2 decades before the bombs dropped. So there you go. Sometimes we get very specific detail in the lore, and sometimes we just get kind of broad sense of things. So specifically, I don't know that we're ever going to find out exactly when Germany themselves last shipped specifically 9mm ammo into the United States. That feels very specific, but I think we have a good sense of it. So there you go. It's time for that spring reset. I'm taking a look at everything in my closet and figuring out that, oh no, this absolutely needs to go. And it's about time I replace things so that my clothes aren't older than my 15-year-old. Now you might think that they lasted that long because they were well made, but no, they're in terrible condition. Unlike the new jeans I just got from Quince. Jeans have always been my personal go-to because you can kind of wear them for lots of different things, but maybe they're not your thing. Maybe you're looking for, 100% European linen with insanely soft flow knit activewear fabric. It's definitely getting warmer, and their flow knit activewear is moisture wicking, anti-odor, and soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it every day. So pick out what you want. You can't go wrong because they have prices 50 to 60% less than similar brands. And like I said before, they are high quality. I continue to wear their clothes all the time, and I know that these new jeans are going to last me a lot better than the other things in my wardrobe. And on top of it, they look great. They're so comfortable, and I spent just as much on the jeans that I am now cleaning out of my wardrobe. So if you're looking for something better, just all around better, go check out Quince. So go do it right now. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/falloutlore.
This episode sponsored by Forkful. Most meal delivery services promise healthy food, but look closer, and you'll often find cheap industrial seed oils hiding in the ingredients. Forkful does things differently. Forkful delivers chef-prepared meals made with premium ingredients you'd expect at a great restaurant, from center-cut filet mignon to wild-caught lobster mac and cheese. And every meal is 100% seed oil-free. Instead of canola or soybean oil, Forkful chefs cook with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and grass-fed butter, because better fats make better food. Meals arrive fresh, never frozen, with clear nutrition and ingredient transparency, so you always know exactly what you're eating. Restaurant-quality meals, real ingredients, no seed oils. Discover Forkful today at forkfulmeals.com.
All right, on to the next one. Have you ever sat down and paid attention to and looked in close detail to all of the different board games you can find across Fallout 4, 76, and then also these were highlighted, or at least the company that makes them was highlighted in the Legendary Run update for Fallout 76. The company is called Don't Be Bored Games, or Don't Be Bored Games Company. And bored here is spelled B-O-R-E-D, like boring, like something is not keeping your attention. But obviously that's a pun, and it probably wouldn't have made sense if they called it Don't Be Bored, like board games. Don't be board games. Buy our board games. Don't be board games. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I can see why they went with the pun here. But yeah, this is the company that makes titles like Autopsy, Blast Radius, Catch the Kami, Rad Poker, The Legendary Run, and Unstoppable Shindig. And I love coming across all of these different board games. Every time I see one, I'm tempted to pick them up, even if I don't need the materials that they break down into. But I love that board games are featured in Fallout so predominantly. And again, it makes sense. Yes, the United States had technology, computers. They even have video games. You can play video games on a Pip-Boy or on a computer at a location somewhere. You can put the little holotapes in and play the video games. But that doesn't mean that board games went out of fashion. In fact, due to the cultural similarities with the mid-1900s, board games were extremely popular. Every home had a Monopoly or a Scrabble or whatever from like the 1950s on. And if you go into a major retailer today, if you walk into a Walmart or a Target or anywhere like that, you will find an entire aisle with a bunch of board games still. They're still extremely popular. It doesn't matter that we have TV shows and video games. People still enjoy playing a board game. And so we can thank Don't Be Bored Games for all of these different games that show up in the games. Now, what would be even cooler about this would be if you could actually find the pieces inside the boxes and collect all the pieces and then sit down and play. Can you imagine this in 76? If you could sit down at like a table with your friends and then like the camera zooms into the board and then you can like spin the little dial or roll the dice and move your little guys around the board and play a board game with your friends inside the game. That would be insane and I would love it. And I'm not sure anyone would actually use it very often, but I think it would be really cool. Now, unfortunately, we don't get any other information about Don't Be Bored Games Company. We don't get to visit a location where their offices were or manufacturing was or anything like that. All we know about them is from the board games that are left around as just kind of, detritus in these games. But that doesn't mean that we won't come across this in the future. In fact, that seems like a fun location to put in something like a Fallout 5 where you come across the actual manufacturing company. And maybe this is a very popular company and they have like giant board game pieces in their lobby, kind of the way that, I don't know, you can go visit Bethesda and you can see the big old statues of power armor and stuff like that in their lobby. That would be really cool. So I've got ideas about board games. Again, developers, if you want my ideas, reach out. Let me know.
I don't know who Dot was, but I'm sure Porter's food does her memory proud.
All right, last one for this week, Dot's Diner. This is a location that shows up in the Capital Wasteland, so Fallout 3. And this feels like the kind of place that's built around some of the vintage diners that we still have, like Village Inn or Denny's. Now, unlike some of the other ones we've talked about this week, there is more information about these. We get multiple locations in Fallout 3. There's one in Canterbury Commons, Grey Ditch, north of the Metro Central Station, east of F. Scott Key Trail and the campground. Drury Street Metro Station has one nearby, and then also north of the Nuka-Cola plant and west of the Red Racer Factory, there's another one. So you can visit these in a few different locations, and you're in luck. They're open 24 hours a day, or at least they used to be before the bombs dropped. But there are some other odd things that can be discovered. The oddest thing here is the fact that if you go to the one near the Nuka-Cola plant, you can find one of the rarest non-special items in the game. There are lots of items that you can pick up in Fallout 3 that you can find all over the place. Just old junk that's laying around, non-unique items. Well, this location has the only guaranteed flower location in the game. Can you remember picking up bags of flour in Fallout 3? They're not particularly common, but they're not unique. And this is the only place in the entire game where you are guaranteed to absolutely find one. Plus, at the same location, you can find the U.S. Army 30 Handy Flamethrower Recipes magazine in order to upgrade your stats. But most of these locations don't have anything nearly as exciting as those, and they're just full of booby traps and that kind of stuff. But there is one of these locations, the one at Jury Street Metro, that is involved in the quest Jig's Loot. So it is worth visiting if you're going to do that quest line. Outside of that, we don't have any details, no old holotapes or details about who owned this string of diners, what company was in charge of them, or anything else that was going on. That would have been of note of any kind. And even the sign itself is not as fancy as some of the other signs we've talked about. It's kind of this, I don't know, wider at the top, rectangular kind of shape that says Dot's Diner in a script font. There really isn't much to it. It's red. So there you go. Dot's Diner. Maybe they used to sell Diggity dogs. We may never know.
If you have any questions about Nuka World, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Thanks again for tuning in. And if you haven't checked out Retro Recall, my other show that I launched a few months back, give it a look. The most recent episode is called Myst Sucks, Myst Sucks, Myst Sucks, Myst Sucks, because the game Myst does not hold up over time, and we checked it out on this week's episode. We go over all sorts of fun things. Classic games that are very popular and some that are terrible. It's a lot of fun if you want to either relive the nostalgia or you're younger and didn't live through that and you want to know more about the origin of video games and how things developed over time. Go check out Retro Recall. It's available wherever you're listening to this show. But also, thank you to our patrons. We have a new patron who signed up, patreon.com/Fallout Lorecast. You guys know how this works. Welcome to King J666. Thank you for joining us. And also shout outs to our Sentry bots, Germinator, Larry D, The Main Monkey, and Ira M. Thank you so much for your support. Also, if you'd like to help out in other ways, you can, of course, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I'll read that out in future episodes somewhere. And then you can also tell your friends. You can share the show with people who love Fallout as much as you and I do. So thanks for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And until then, when somebody offers you a hot dog, ask them if it's made with Doghouse products. Oh, that's so gross. All right. Thanks for being here. See you next time. To plug into everything else we're doing, check out robotsradio.net. Reach out to me on Twitter at robots_radio. Check out the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where you can join me and a bunch of our other creators creating your podcast, starting a new podcast, or helping your current podcast grow. There's more information about that on robotsradio.net as well. And you can always talk with us and the entire community, over 2,000 people on the Robots Radio Discord. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you. See you guys next time. Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play.
This episode sponsored by Forkful. Most meal delivery services promise healthy food, but look closer and you'll often find cheap industrial seed oils hiding in the ingredients. Forkful does things differently. Forkful delivers chef-prepared meals made with premium ingredients you'd expect at a great restaurant, from center-cut filet mignon to wild-caught lobster mac and cheese. And every meal is 100% seed oil free. Instead of canola or soybean oil, Forkful chefs cook with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and grass-fed butter, because better fats make better food. Meals arrive fresh, never frozen, with clear nutrition and ingredient transparency, so you always know exactly what you're eating. Restaurant-quality meals, real ingredients, no seed oils. Discover Forkful today at forkfulmeals.com.
This episode sponsored by Apollo Neuro. Having problems getting a good night's sleep? Apollo Neuro may be the help your body needs. Apollo Neuro is a wearable designed to calm your nervous system so you can fall asleep faster and sleep deeper without medication or side effects. It works by sending gentle, silent vibrations through your wrist that signals safety to your body, like a hug for your nervous system. The result? Fewer wake-ups, deeper sleep, and mornings where you actually feel rested. It's not just a sleep tracker. Apollo actively helps you regulate your body, and Smart Vibes AI automatically personalizes the experience for sleep, calm, focus, and recovery. It's scientifically backed, with clinical trial participants gaining up to 60 minutes of sleep a night. Try it risk-free for 30 days. Visit apolloneuro.com/audio and take $99 off today.